Now the tough policy, مَا أَفَاءَ اللَّهُ عَلَى رَسُولِهِ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْقُرَىٰ. And whatever Allah gave to His messenger from the people of the towns, meaning the towns that were now taken over, Banu Nulayr, فَلِلَّهِ وَلِلرَّسُولِ. Then it belongs to Allah and the messenger. These guys were now used to the policy of al-anfal, Badr policy, which is a fifth goes to the treasury of the Muslims, everything else is distributed. But no, even now, all of it goes to Allah and His messenger. And what does it mean that it goes to the messenger? وَلِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ. The close relatives, the orphans, the poor, those who are in the midst of travel, basically the welfare society. As those who need welfare, it's going to go to them. And why will it go to all of them? كَيْ لَا يَكُونَ دُولَةً بَيْنَ الْأَغْنِيَاءِ مِنْكُمْ. This is actually the economic, the macroeconomic policy of Islam. If Islam has a philosophy on economics, this is what it is. So that the wealth does not only circle among the wealthy among you, that the wealth trickles down. They use the term trickle-down economics, right? But they use it incorrectly. Their philosophy is, on the one hand, the philosophy is if you make the wealthy wealthier, then eventually some of it will fall down like sweat on the poor, and they should be happy with that. The scraps. Right? That's the idea. And if they become wealthier, then they'll become more of an employer, and they'll invest more, and therefore the economy will benefit. Right? That's the idea. Except history speaks against that concept. When the wealthy get wealthier, what tends to happen in a society? The poor get poorer. And that's human history. That's not some economic theory that can be proven or disproven. It's practical. Whenever you have, and Shah Waliullah Dehlvi rahimahullah was one of the first, Islamic scholars, fuqaha with foresight to see that the modern world is at its helm. Like he was the 16th, 17th century, and he was already starting to see like the modern world shape. And he realized something economically is going to happen that's never happened in the world before. And he called it. He said, there's two things that are going to happen. You're going to have obscenely rich people. And as a result, you're going to have obscenely poor people. And the obscenely poor people are going to live their lives. Their iman will be destroyed because they'll live their lives just to survive. All they'll worry about is surviving. They'll break their backs working and not save a penny and just worry about feeding themselves for that day. That's going to become the fate of most of the poor. You learn the hadith, كَادَ الْفَقْرَ أَنْ يَكُونَ كُفْرًا. Remember in the 40 hadith? That the poverty can almost become what? Kufr. Why? Because when someone is that poor, you can't talk to them about concerns of Jannah and Nar. What are they worried about? Lunch. Where am I going to sleep? That's what they're worried about. They're literally down to survival. They're living like animals at that point. Their human dignity is stripped from them in that level of poverty, right? So you can't talk to them about Iman at that point. It's at a social level. Individually is something else. At a social level, Iman drops in that culture. And then the other side, you have obscenely rich people. And he said that when they become so rich, they don't know what to do with their wealth. So they engage in all kinds of corrupt and shameless activities and decadence. And extravagance that creates this other culture, this culture of extreme sin. So the masses of the people will start losing iman, and the top of the people have the most corrupt practices. And the other thing that happens is both of these sides start hating each other. They look down upon the low because they're so low, they don't even see them as human anymore. And the low at the bottom say, those people, they have everything and we have nothing. Why is that? And there's this class warfare that starts happening between the classes, right? So Allah says, كَيْ لَا يَكُونَ دَوْلَةً بَيْنَ الْأَغْنِيَاءِ مِنْكُمْ. So that there shouldn't be wealth circling among just a few. Because the people who rode their horses into the battle against Banu Nulayr were expecting twice. Obviously the people with the horses are richer than the people that don't have horses, right? So the guy didn't have to spend much because they just parked their horses and came back. They didn't fight. They didn't lose anything. And now they should get richer on top of that. Allah said, no, this should be distributed to the poor. This money should go to the poor. This, by the way, is a very important ayah because it dictated foreign policy for Muslims in the future. Umar radiallahu anhu used this ayah to stop what could have been one of the worst economic catastrophes of human history. It could have turned into one of the worst economic catastrophes of human history. When Muslims started, conquering territories in Rome and Persia, then the Sahaba, some of them came back and said, well, we conquered these lands, therefore a fifth of it should go to the Muslim treasury, and 80% of it should be distributed among the soldiers. That would have created the world's greatest aristocracy. Every soldier would have had acres and acres and miles of land, like 10,000 soldiers sharing an entire country. That's not enough people. That's very few people sharing a lot of land, right? And an aristocracy, if you know, like the ownership of land, farmland especially, what does that create? You have a working class that works on the field, and you have the owner class, the aristocrat, that takes all the benefit from the field, right? And it actually perpetuates a slavery culture. Perpetuates the culture of slavery. So some Sahaba came back and they said, according to the ayah, we should get 80%. The Muslim treasury should get 20%. And Umar radiallahu anhu had the foresight to say, actually, whatever you found on the battlefield, you keep. But all the land, because you know the battlefield happens at the border. It happens in the battlefield. But as a result, you take over the entire country. That doesn't mean the country is going to get distributed among the soldiers. The only thing distributed among the soldiers is whatever they found on the battlefield. The rest of it is fay. The rest of it is overspill, and that belongs to the Muslim treasury, Allah and His Messenger. The Messenger is gone. The idea is the Muslim treasury. And the first time in human history, they developed the concept of government-owned land. Public land. And it wasn't like the government took its money. The entire point of it was all the revenues that will be generated from this farmland that's been taken over is going to be redistributed to the poor of the Muslim. It's going to get so that the land is now serving the needs of the masses. That's been taken over as a result of war. SubhanAllah. It's incredible. And if you study like modern war, not the video game, modern warfare, but if you study modern war, then you'll find that once a nation is taken over, in the modern world, corporations come in and buy a bunch of land. Right? They come in, the oil companies come in, and whatever mining companies come in, or whatever, water companies come in and start rechanneling rivers and things like that. And what happens to all of that wealth? It starts going into further enriching the rich after war is over. These wars happen, and the idea of it was to make wealth circulate among the people. And Islam has that embedded in its code. Like if you're a rich family, there's no guarantee that you'll be rich generations from now, because every time a person dies, they have to leave behind an inheritance. And the inheritance has a share for the man, the woman, the brother, the sister, etc., the wife, etc. Everybody, basically, it was one patch of wealth, but it didn't stay in that family, it got spread. And then the girls marry off in another family. So they take that wealth with them. It doesn't stay in the same last name anymore. Right? So it was this system. Even the system of zakat is one that ensures that you don't have aristocratic families that have been billionaires for centuries. It doesn't let you do that. It just, you can be well off, but you're not going to be like, eating off the ground or whatever, but it's going to make sure that you don't become so obscenely rich at the expense of the rest of society. And you'll find, this is very interesting, you'll find in economies in the world that have the most poverty also have the richest people. You'll find that. The richest people, the most insanely rich people, you'll find in the most struggling economies. A handful of people controlling the entire wealth. And everybody else can starve to death, who cares? Okay? So, لَكَيْ لَا يَكُونَ دُولَةً بَيْنَ الْأَغْنِيَاءِ مِنْكُمْ وَمَا أَتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ. Whatever the messenger's given you better take it. Meaning this policy. Because when Sahaba went into battle, there's an expectation. There are human beings after all, there's an expectation. There's going to be spoils of war. And of course, they know that the fort has a lot of goods in it. They have udda, they have withaq, they have protections, they have armor, they have artillery. They're well equipped. None of it came to them. وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُ. Then whatever he forbade you from, you better stop. Whatever the messenger stopped you from going at, you don't go for it. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. And be cautious of Allah. No doubt Allah is intense in taking vengeance. لِلْفُقَرَاءِ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ. Allah then said, and by the way, there is a special segment of people that among even the soldiers will get some of these spoils of war, and those are the very poor, the muhajirin that have come from Makkah. Now who should start feeling bad? So, the ayah came for us. Muhajirin are going to get it. الَّذِينَ أُخْرِجُوا مِنْ دِيَارِهِمْ. Those who were expelled from their homes, وَأَمْوَالِهِمْ, and their wealth. They have lost all of their wealth. يَبْتَغُونَ فَضْلًا مِنَ اللَّهِ وَرِضْوَانًا, those in pursuit of a favor from Allah and His contentment only. وَيَنْصُرُونَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ, and they aid Allah and His Messenger. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الصَّادِقُونَ, those are the actually truthful ones. Allah gave a justification in this ayah, not just because they're poor, not just because they're muhajirun, because they've already given Allah way more than anybody else has. What have they given Allah? Their homes, all of their assets. They've left everything for Allah. So Allah is going to give them. They didn't ask the Messenger, Allah gave them. Allah gave them.